Our devotional thought from the New Testament today comes from Matthew chapter 17, beginning with verse 10. And I want you to listen carefully to what it says. They've just come down off of the Mount of Transfiguration. They've had this incredible encounter. They've heard the voice of the Father. And the disciples say, "Why do the teachers of the religious law insist that Elijah must return before Messiah comes?" Jesus replied, "Elijah is indeed coming first to get everything ready. But I tell you, Elijah has already come, but he wasn't recognized. And they chose to abuse him, and in the same way they will also make the Son of Man suffer." Then the disciples realized he was talking about John the Baptist. Now, brothers and sisters, I want you to notice that when Jesus walked this earth in ministry, they did not just oppose him with their questions. They taught against him. Let me say that again. They did not just oppose him with their questions. They taught against him in the temple courts. They taught against him in the synagogue. They used Scripture to teach against Jesus as the Messiah. Now, sometimes we look at that and we go, how in the world could they possibly do that when, you see that when you open the Scriptures declare Jesus. Well, notice in verse 10, why do the teachers of the law insist that Elijah must return before Messiah comes? Jesus. In every synagogue, they say you can't be Messiah because Elijah didn't come first. Jesus, in the temple courts, they sit around and they talk about that you cannot be. When people ask if you're the Messiah, they say you cannot be the Messiah because Elijah must come first. In other words, they were insisting that Jesus could not be the Messiah because they insisted that Elijah must come first. This is how they discredited, with the Scripture, Jesus' life and ministry before the people. But Jesus said, now listen, you got to understand, Elijah has already come, and they didn't recognize him. The one who came to make straight the ways of the Lord, that was John the Baptist, my cousin. He came, and they didn't even recognize him. And he said, not only did they not recognize him, and I love the New Living Translation on this, it says they abused him, verse 12. He was not recognized, and they chose to abuse him. Sometimes we get the idea that John had it easier than Jesus, that, people really respected John the Baptist, but they didn't respect Jesus. No, they didn't respect the forerunner either. They abused John the Baptist. They didn't recognize him, and they abused him. But the big truth I want you to see here is that there will be people that will use Scriptures that will teach wrong things. Now, people like to throw around false prophet all the time. And you know what? I'm convinced that there are more false prophets out there than I used to think when I was a young man. But I'm also convinced that there's a lot of people that aren't false prophets. They just have bad doctrines, okay? And they're so fixed on their wrong doctrine that they can't see past their wrong doctrine to what God is doing. And that was like these guys. The teachers of the law could not see past their wrong doctrine. They could not see past the fact that they truly did not understand the prophet John the Baptist was Elijah, making straight the way of the Lord. Because they couldn't see past their wrong doctrine, they could not see truth. Now, beloved, we've always got to keep our heart open to the Scripture. And sometimes it's amazing how people insist on something, but all of their insisting, they're just wrong.